The Euphrates River, once a symbol of life and tranquility, has become a harbinger of fear and the unknown. As its waters rise at an alarming pace, something terrifying lurks in its depths, emerging to haunt the imaginations of those who dare to uncover its secrets. Get ready for a chilling journey into the heart of darkness, where the Euphrates River reveals a side that will send shivers down your spine. The Euphrates River, also known as the Ferat in Turkish, originates in Eastern Anatolia, flows generally southward through southeastern Turkey around the provinces of Sanliurfa, Adiyaman, and Gaziantep, crosses the border into Syria and Iraq passing through Mesopotamia, and eventually empties into the Persian Gulf in Basra after joining with the Tigris River in Shatt al-Arab. Its overall length is roughly 2,800 kilometers, with Turkey accounting for 603 miles of its total length. Karasu and Murad rivers, which are both considered to be headwaters of the Euphrates River, join together somewhere close to the Kaban district of Elazig province, which is home to the Kaban Dam, which is considered to be one of the largest in Turkey due to its height of 210 meters and was constructed between 1965 and 1975. Karakaya, which stands at a height of 173 meters, is yet another significant dam that was opened as part of the GAP project in 1987. However, the Ataturk Dam is the greatest dam in Turkey in terms of size, and is also one of the largest dams in the world. It was constructed on the Euphrates River close to the Sanliurfa region between 1983 and 1992, and has a height of 169 meters. All of these dams were built in this part of Turkey so that hydroelectric power could be delivered to the area, water could be made available for irrigation, and flooding could be mitigated. These dams also create reservoirs that are very sizable and easily distinguishable from one another. The water that is released from the Ataturk Dam is channeled through two parallel tunnels in Urfa that are each 7.62 meters broad and 16.4 miles in length. This water is then utilized to irrigate agricultural fields in the regions of Urfa Haran, Mardin Selen Pinar, Siverek Hilvan, and Upper Mardin. In addition to the Karasu and the Murat rivers, the Toma, Peri, Kalti, and Munzur rivers are also tributaries of the Euphrates. The lowlands near the Euphrates have an average elevation of 760 meters, whereas the plateaus and mountains have an average elevation of more than 1,500 meters. It grows between March and June when the snow in the mountains melts and reduces the water flow between January and July when there isn't much rain due to the typical climate of a continental subtropical region, which is hot and dry summers and cold and snowy winters. Its water regime is heavily dependent on winter rains and spring snowmelt in the mountains. The freezing temperatures and snowfall during the winter months put a stop to the agriculture that runs along the Euphrates, which plays an essential role in the economy of the region, comes to a standstill during those months. The people who live in the areas surrounding the Euphrates rely heavily on fishing as a secondary source of income. Carp, barbels, catfish, spiny eel, frogs, toads, and turtles are some of the fish and other species that may be found in the river and the marshes. Near the rivers in this region, a variety of flora can be seen growing, including oak trees, pistachio trees, ashwoods, cattail, MARDI reed and other types of reeds, camel thorn, prosopis, willow, poplar, date palms, and many types of wildflowers. During the time of the Hittites and the Urartu, the banks of the Euphrates were home to a plethora of prosperous ancient cities, one of which was the city of Zugma. Another river mentioned in the Bible is the Euphrates, which flows into the Tigris. It was known as Perat at the time and is recorded in the book of Genesis as one of the 4 rivers that split off from the river that was flowing out of the Garden of Eden. PISHON, GIHON, Hiddekel, and Perat were the names of these 4 rivers. Future of Euphrates River. Climate change puts the Euphrates River in risk of drying up. Northeastern Syria has experienced a 1 degree Celsius increase in average temperature during the past century, but the average monthly rainfall has fallen by 18 millimeters. The river may run dry in 2040, according to the Ministry of Water Resources in Iraq. The Euphrates, a birthplace of civilization, may be threatened by human environmental impact, leading people to abandon the region they have called home for thousands of years. The Euphrates River, the longest and one of the oldest in Western Asia, is crucial to Syria as a major source of fresh water for the entire nation. However, the Euphrates is being affected by climate change, which has also made Syria's civil war more fragile and heightened tensions. The Euphrates River's water level have dropped to historically low levels as a result of the drought, which has drastically reduced rainfall in the river basin and put the local people at risk of disease and emigration. Can this condition be changed? The Euphrates has historically supplied Syria's agricultural needs for water to the tune of 85%. The river is used by people for drinking water, farming, and animal husbandry. The conduct of religious rituals and the imputing of spiritual attributes to the river serve to highlight the strong connection between the Syrian people and the waterway. Currently, low water levels and poor water quality are causing a number of catastrophes, including a cholera outbreak that has been going on since September 2022 and starvation. Impacts of climate change. The Euphrates Tigris River system's flow has dropped to approximately half of its typical annual flow during dry years during the previous few decades. The Euphrates River is currently at one of its lowest points in recorded history for water levels. Along with population growth, this decrease in water availability has increased the water insecurity of downstream nations like Syria. These droughts have the greatest impact on Syrian farmers and herders, putting them in a difficult position and putting many rural people at risk of being displaced. Since fighting began in 2011, the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization estimates that Syria's wheat harvest has decreased by 75%. Many farmers are currently dealing with difficult economic and security circumstances, while also having to adjust to new realities brought on by the shifting climate following more than 10 years of fighting from the Syrian civil war. And the most impacted populations heavily rely on the Euphrates for survival. Syria's agricultural industry is particularly affected by water problems. Farmers in northeastern Syria are losing harvests as a result of contaminated water and a lack of irrigation. As Catherine Bliss of CSIS Global Health Policy Center explains, one of the challenges that we've seen with respect to recurrent drought is that people are finding it necessary to either go further to find their water or to seek water from sources that have turned out to be contaminated. As a weapon, water. The minimum average flow of water from the Euphrates near the Syrian-Turkish border is specified in agreements between the two countries. Damascus and Ankara agreed in 1987 that Syria should receive 500 cubic meters of water per second from Turkey. The Syrian government, however, claimed in 2021 that Turkey was depriving Syrians of their fair share of water from the Euphrates. Only 200 cubic meters per second are being supplied by the river at the moment. Turkish dams upstream have likewise led to a decrease in water flow. Turkey is accused by Syria of using water restrictions as a direct weapon by cutting off water to Syrian cities, which led to the Aluk water station, a vital water source in northeast Syria, to stop producing electricity. Governments normally handle these kinds of emergencies, alleviating suffering and provide vital social services. This is not the case in Syria. If the Syrian government ran its affairs and carried out its own laws, Syrians would probably experience the anguish of a shifting Euphrates less. The role of governments is to provide safety, security, and services, says Errol Yebok, a senior fellow with the International Security Program and head of CSIS Project on Fragility and Mobility. You would observe an increase in the services provided to people in the face of climate change if there was a functioning government in Syria. These services would include essential access to clean and safe water, as well as initiatives to aid communities along the Euphrates in climate adaptation. An additional 7 million people have been internally displaced as a result of the ongoing conflict in Syria. Furthermore, the nation's infrastructure has suffered significant harm, and ongoing hostilities make immediate restoration efforts unlikely. Because of the exclusion of particular groups from Bashar al-Assad's rule, there are numerous active factions in the battle, which adds to the conflict's complexity. For instance, a sizable ethnic group known as the Kurds inhabits Syria's north as well as its neighbors Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. Syrian Kurds were among the population who protested the government, calling for representation in a more democratic society. Syria confronts a systemic risk due to the interaction of these elements and the accelerated consequences of climate change, which might lead to catastrophic instability and endanger the state and its institutions. The only answer, according to Ferris, would be some sort of political agreement, some change in the way the government operates, and some change in how the rule of law is put into practice. That would enable people to either go back to their homes or find other long-term options for the Syrians who are currently living as refugees in neighboring nations, like resettlement in third world nations like the US and Europe. Furthermore, the nation's infrastructure has suffered significant harm, and ongoing hostilities make immediate restoration efforts unlikely. Because of the exclusion of particular groups from Bashar al-Assad's rule, there are numerous active factions in the battle, which adds to the conflict's complexity. For instance, a sizable ethnic group known as the Kurds inhabits Syria's north as well as its neighbors Turkey, Iraq, and Iran. Syrian Kurds were among the population who protested the government, calling for representation in a more democratic society. Syria confronts a systemic risk due to the interaction of these elements and the accelerated consequences of climate change, which might lead to catastrophic instability and endanger the state and its institutions. The only answer, according to Ferris, would be some sort of political agreement, some change in the way the government operates, and some change in how the rule of law is put into practice. That would enable people to either go back to their homes or find other long-term options for the Syrians who are currently living as refugees in neighboring nations, like resettlement in third world nations like the US and Europe. Future for Syria. To maintain the Euphrates River, and by extension the Syrian people, not to mention the other nations that depend on the river, cooperation at all levels will also be vital. To solve the problems facing the Euphrates River, efforts from the international community, the commercial sector, local and international NGOs, the social and scientific sectors, as well as whole society activities are all essential. Therefore, the international community should collaborate with those affected to enable these changes, and the interstate accords involving the Euphrates should be amended to reflect the consequences of climate change. Due to the threat that environmental water degradation poses to livelihoods, international assistance might offer local farmers mitigating tools, such as resilient crops and technological know-how, to aid in their adaptation to the changing climate. It is essential that the business sector contribute by funding extra resources. Private ventures can provide crucial tools and expertise in a variety of fields. For instance, insurance businesses may contribute their knowledge in forecasting the weather, or pharmaceutical firms could intervene by offering vaccines to stop cholera epidemics or other medications. The technology resources required to monitor water levels, pollution, and salinity could be offered by commercial companies. TESFE emphasizes that using technology can improve humanitarian and development efforts. Mercy Corps is attempting to make use of this data so that it can offer communities better services. We can examine certain physical properties of the globe and improve measurements thanks to satellite data in particular. Additionally, it enables us to deliver that knowledge to communities that require it. The value of these alliances is evidenced by the efficient coordination across NGOs at the local and global levels. These coalitions will take on a variety of forms, including those of international organizations, the scientific community, religious organizations, and activities involving the entire society. To address the effects of climate change, notably the scarcity of water, international organizations like UNICEF may function as a bridge and offer guarantees for the formation of a permanent NGO cooperation framework in Syria. By supporting such preventative actions, the international community might assist in addressing the humanitarian issue brought on by the environment. The contributions of the social and scientific communities are also always beneficial and should be supported. Innovative digital tools can support both the educational and humanitarian sectors. For instance, they can organize virtual scientific forums for the submission of groundbreaking proposals and customized training programs. They can also raise money via digital social platforms for the purchase of first aid supplies. Religious organizations have a part as well. In addition to doing humanitarian work, they can utilize their clout to sway locals who might be wary of outsiders. Last but not least, efforts made by the entire society can help to lessen the effects of climate change. The Euphrates River and the physical environment in Syria will be kept from further contamination by reducing the use of fossil fuels and boosting the use of sustainable energy. That's all for the video. We will be right back with more. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching.